Good morning, everybody, and happy 2021. It is the first Sunday of the year. And as I say that, I have to also say that I don't know that the vibration of 2020 is exactly over. I have a lot I want to talk to you guys about this morning before I start the readings. As I was doing my meditation and looking at the transits coming up, the thing that stood out the most to me is Mars entering Taurus. And for those of you, just for clarification, I am Western whole sign, as taught by Lotta, and I believe it's on the 7th that Mars will actually enter into Taurus. Taurus represents our stability. It represents the ground we walk on. And it's starting a dance with Uranus that is in its shadow period. And we know from our teachings that the shadow period is where the planet has its most, it's anchored in. It has 5 times more influence and power than it would normally. So I believe, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a few dates, I'm not going to talk just about this week, you guys. I'm going to talk about January, and then I'm not going to go into February, but it's going to drift into February because Mars and Uranus, as they start their dance towards one another, having this very, very disruptive conversation. And they're not disrupting things just for the sake of the joy of mayhem and of debacle, but rather to continue the unraveling of what we have done in a stoic, dutiful way as we live our human experience, and where we are now being liberated from that experience and taking it to a higher level of authenticity. So while Uranus, okay, so let's just go back for a second. Uranus represents the unexpected. It represents shocking events. It represents lightning. It represents earthquakes in Taurus, the sign of Earth. So I believe we may see some rumblings, if not more rumblings, around the world. I believe that one of the most important things about this first quarter of 2021 as souls that have congregated on Sundays here, or even if you're just watching the video, we are being activated to be aware of our vibration and the ripple effect of that vibration as we walk through these transits of revolution, of revolt, of liberation, of freedom, of breaking the box. Because we have the presidential inauguration on the 20th. And the 20th, I think, is the exact day that Jupiter will square Uranus and Mars. Now, we know Uranus is a slow-moving planet. We know that Jupiter takes a year to go through a sign. So this influence is going to be going on for, most of the month, it feels like, in varying degrees, intensity. And then we throw Mars in the mix. So I think we may see people be very shocked as their beliefs are dashed, as things shift on a dime, as the environment changes in ways that are unprecedented. I believe that we go through these cycles. We've talked about Jupiter and Saturn going into Aquarius and ushering in this new age of more connectedness, more authenticity to our unique expression. These things can't happen just because, we walked from one day to a next. These things happen as one system breaks down and another system is implemented. So that's where I'm going with all this. This is what Uranus and Mars is doing. And I believe it's sort of at our opportunity as light workers is to start to think about what is the vibration that we want to, what is the ripple effect we want our vibration to be? Do I stand in fear of the events around me, or do I activate my team of heavenly hosts and masters to not only protect my physical being and my financial being, but to allow my spiritual and emotional body to set the tone And I really think that this is where we can really shift the dynamic from this lower vibration of being fearful of these planets, of being fearful of what they're capable of. You know, we saw what Uranus is capable of when it was in Aries and went retrograde, when the fires were in California. And I just feel like this is really going to be more about our belief system. It's going to be more about the square to Jupiter and how we think of things. You know, some of us may be disillusioned by mentors. Some of us may broaden our beliefs spiritually. Some of us may lose and be disillusioned by people that we thought were authentic in our politics and how we view the people that are of authority to us. You know, there's a lot of disruption in California over the governor and how he's handled COVID. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this square affect him in a very strong way. They've been talking about, I can't remember the term, it's not an impeachment, but there's some sort of process. I've been on a very much a media diet because of this dynamic. I don't want to get too sucked into the darkness because it can permeate pretty quickly. But in any case, what I'm getting at is that for us, as we walk through this month, we've got this conjunction between Mars and Uranus that's going to dominate the energy of the month. That conjunction is going to be squaring Jupiter and Saturn, but exactly Jupiter. We're going to hit the Uranus square in February. So my point is that when we can see that the caterpillar has to feel like it's dying before it becomes the butterfly, and if we can connect to the idea that the butterfly is in fear as it breaks through that cocoon, you know, feeling that restriction, feeling that darkness, it will allow us to really engage our hosts, our heavenly hosts, our guides, because I do believe that we are here to, light workers are here to offer balance from the darkness, not to be overcome by it. And if we really think about when you walk into a dark room and you turn on the light overwhelms the darkness. So as you walk through this week, and you may find yourself, and this month, I really am not even going to go to this week, because this week feels like it's a tee up. It feels like it's the rehearsal. And I was thinking about this metaphor of Mars and Uranus not doing a waltz. I thought they're really doing the paso doble. It felt like a very aggressive dance, a dance that would be like stomping my feet on the ground. And so be mindful of that, because you may be the stomper, but more than likely the stomper may be the community around you. I would not be surprised if we saw protests. I would not be surprised if we saw division within the United States, and that people no longer want to go along with the system. I don't want to use the term civil war, because I don't know that I think that's really true, but I definitely think that square is going to create a ripple effect that I don't know how to define, because I think, again, it's unprecedented. And I think what it offers us is, in the past, we have gone to arms. In the past, we've gone to violence, which was what Mars represents, aggression, in order to assert ourselves and change. And maybe there is a way where we can actually shift that vibration of Mars past the idea of rioting, past the idea of aggression, you know, and more of an assertion, more of a willingness to not stand in defense of, but in light of. So I hope all of us will think about that. Think about, you know, I think that our best defense is our vibration. That's where I'm going with this. So as we're aware of our vibration, rather than being reactionary, and thinking about how a square offers, in some ways, the beginning of a corner of foundation. So Yes, Mars is moving into Taurus, Patricia. That's what we've been talking about. It's going to meet Uranus. Uranus is currently in its shadow period, and then it's going to go direct. And they will be on around the week of January 20th for, it's hard for me to exactly know the days, but it's at least a week and a half, feels like the influence. So we may very much, and I want to offer this as an idea as a tribe. And Michaela, I love that you put that in quotes, because what if we were aware of our vibration, and what if as a tribe on January 3rd, we started to send the world this energy of confidence in their humanity, to see one another, in their higher vibration of expressing their unrest or their lack of agreement with what's going on, so that we can start to see people express themselves, but not with this anger and this sense of, you must die for me to live. Because that's what I think's been missing. And I think that's where, as souls incarnating into the human experience, we have chosen to be here now to rewrite that story, to not to give into the old way of just trying to exterminate that which is different or not in the same alignment in belief, but rather to find new ways of expressing those things. And we as light workers hold the key to how we experience this transit. And that's why I go on a media diet, because the human part of me could get really freaked out. And I go to my guides over and over again to remind me that not only did I choose to be here and to experience this opportunity, but also to be part of the tribe that helps with the balance. And the balance is never assured knowing. It's a faith in a bigger picture. It's a faith in a deeper place. So I want to offer that to you guys this week as you walk through this sort of, you start to feel this energy getting impatient and getting like, I'm done. I'm so sick of, because, we're going on a year of being in lockdown in March. And I know that's still 2 months away, but I just think we're all really sick of it. And I'm not sure that it's, when the virus first shut everything down, the next moment was the riots. The next moment happened with George Floyd, and that, so there's a little sense of something like that, feeling like it could play itself out in a new way and yet similar way. So I just feel like, as I'm prepared, and not in a way of fearfully, but a way of being aware of my own reactions. Some people just grate on my nerves. So am I going to walk into that vibration and try to be a peaceful energy? No, I'm going to a little bit avoid that and be where I can truly be effective. So that's where I'm going with that. Let's get there. Let's get on with our readings this week. And again, I want to wish you all a new happy 2021. I do believe that we are very much in these golden years as we sit in consciousness to make this planet. I want to use words that sound a little idealistic, like utopia and nirvana, because it's not the absence of fear that makes the human feel great. It is the empowerment through fear. It is the, sitting out there and being your truth, singing your song loud and proud, having other people respond to it favorably. That's what people love. They don't love the applause just for their ego's sake, but for the validation that I am visible as I express myself. And that's where we're headed. That's what all this disruption is about. So when we can keep our eye on the prize, then we start to accelerate that process, and we can avert some of the dynamics that are habitually destructive. That's where we have to look at what Mars offers us in its highest vibration. The truth seeker, the spiritual warrior, the brave pioneer, the courageous one. Tap into that part of yourself and let Uranus liberate you to anchoring that. Your beliefs through Jupiter's square. That's what and as we do that, I feel like we will have an effect that will be palatable to all of us within our communities, within this community, and within our intimate communities. So that's where I'm going with that. It's exciting and a little, I'm going to say it, it's a little scary. And yet I feel like it's exhilarating. A little fear, it serves a high vibration. All right, here we go. Let's, yes, Astro Ascension, Mars-Uranus conjunction. I think people are going to be super fed up. That's why I'm saying, how are we going to show up in our fed upness? All right, let's start with Pisces, as I do. Let me get my crystal. I always hold my rose quartz crystal in my, and actually it's funny, I had this for years. It's hard to see through the video, but I've had this for years and held it during meditation. And just about 2 years ago, I saw an angel inside of it for the first time, and it was really magical. So, all right, here we go. Let's start with our Pisces rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, Pisces. Our first angel is Chantal, the angel of romance. The second is Rosetta. The third is Omega. And the final is Serena. I don't know what happened to Amy Brown, but I want to wish you well. I hope you're okay. Oh my goodness, 200-pound weight on your chest. Did you get COVID, Amy? Hold on, I'm sorry, guys. I have to scroll back for a second and see what Amy said. Oh, from a car accident. Oh my goodness. All right, well, we'll send you loving energy. Send angels. Okay, here we go. I'm glad you're still here and you know. Okay. Pisces. Joining Chantal is the Joy card. Joining Rosetta is the Wind Fairy. Joining Omega is the Swan. And joining Serena is the Goblin. Well, this is interesting because Chantal represents romance. It represents the resurgence of a current romance and or the entry of romance, and not in a wishy-washy way, but that romance is coming. And there is the Joy card. And it was funny, while I was doing my hair this morning, I kept getting the image of, I think it's a World War II picture where the sailor is about to get onto his ship to go out to sea, and he dips his girlfriend down and kisses her. It's very 40s. It's a beautiful romantic picture. And I kept seeing that because I feel like with Pisces, you know, as I said earlier, we're rounding on over 10 months. In Italy, actually, it's been a year. I think they've been suffering through this longer than we have. So, you know, in other parts of the world, they've been surviving this COVID thing. And I think I'm going to go to the final position and then work my way back, is that Serena's angel of abundance, and then there's the wounded ego. And I feel like what Spirit is asking for Pisces is truly to tap into that deeper knowing, that more spiritual side of yourself, and know that God is in charge of your love life right now. And I want to say it this way, because with the world vibration being so shadowed and so challenged for so long, it's hard to find the light in the darkness right now. It's hard to believe things will shift to a happier place, because it feels like for Pisces that your mind has been overruling your childlike innocence, your belief. And I want to say it this way, because now we're talking about Mars and Uranus coming into this conjunction this month. And I bring this up now, even though it's not the exact dates, because it permeates the energy of this new beginning of this new year. And part of this warring may be a warring within oneself. It may not be a warring always outside of yourself. It may be that your belief system is just completely challenged in some way. But I want to offer it this way, because if you really look at what is my thoughts and how do they serve me? Because thoughts are the focus of a thought creates a momentum, and the momentum creates the law of attraction. So the more focus on something, the more law of attraction you've got going on. Because here in the angel's advice, we have the swan, which is about transforming my intuitive gifts. And there's the victory card. So as you say to yourself, you know what? Maybe there's a lot of story I don't know about. Maybe my ruling planet Neptune also makes me sometimes foggy, and I can't always see exactly how it's going to play out, because my ego right now is saying, but this is how the world is. And Spirit is asking all of us to step our vibration up, to trust a bigger picture of why we chose to walk through these challenges. Because I believe that maybe part of Pisces is that you want to feel more connected in your intimate body. And I don't mean it in a sexual way. I mean it in a feeling, a cooperative way, in partnership, in the rhythm of life, and moving through this with someone. Part of this COVID thing for me is I just don't see people in person as much. And it makes me feel like my brain doesn't work as well. Like talking to the dog is not a conversation. It's a monologue. And I thought to myself, I better start doing crossword puzzles to stimulate my mind. Because I do believe for my Pisces that your ego right now may be jumping up and saying, you know, nothing's ever going to change. Nothing's ever going to change. And that's the only participation you have, is to think, well, maybe it will change. Okay. Let's go on to our Aquariuses. And Aquarius, I want to say, I think this is going to be an action-packed time for you, because all of this action is happening in your sign. And, you know, we can talk about the idea that Aquarius represents humanity, the collective, you know, but more than I want to represent, it represents our hopes and dreams and desires. And there's a great wealth aspect to that. Well, you know, I want to say one little thing. George, you said, I had a dream of a building falling and a city skyline far away with a bomb going off 2 days before the Christmas bombing. Wow. That is really, that hits me in two different ways. It's telling me I've been getting a lot of downloads in my dreams and weird conversations in my dreams where I think I'm going to wake up and remember. And there've been things talking about astrology in my dreams. And I feel like a lot of us have been plugging into this connection with our team, with our heavenly hosts. And so now as we get to these more challenging vibrations with these, you know, this continued aspect, and Mars making so much, Mars's energy through Aries and now going into Taurus, it's really speaking very loudly. And so our teams are closer and closer to us. So our connection to them will start to, I think, be more palatable, but it's also our invitation. So, and I want to say this too, because the idea of buildings falling and a skyline changing feels like it's a metaphor for structure, for old structure, for an old way of thinking, not just the whole idea of that happening in the real world. Okay, here we go. On to Aquarius. Thank you, Juan, for your patience with me. Good morning, small wildflowers. Hi, Dawn. I haven't said hi to anybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kanchan. Hi, Oil Painter. Hi, Shelly. Hi, Jules. Hi, CJHS. Hi, Inga. Okay, Teri. All right, here we go, Aquarius. Our first angel is Vanessa. The second is Oceana. The third is Aurora. And the final is Indriel. As I'm shuffling, I want to say that, I believe that the term light worker is not something that makes us special or elite, but yet just something that's indicative of us being light beings. And what may differentiate us from others is that our awareness of our light. And so again, I feel like as I'm looking at this Aquarius thing, it's going to be, our team, our guides, our angels asking us to truly co-create with them, to see the world and to trust this disruption is truly opening us up to our dreams. So Vanessa is being joined by the Earth Fairy, the very foundation we stand on. Aquarius, Oceana is being joined by the dog, loyalty, sincerity, and unconditional love. Aurora is being joined by the serpent, offering us knowledge and healing. And Indriel is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. This is a beautiful spread for me. And this Earth Fairy to me very much indicates that the closer we are to our team, the more we engage them. Thank you, Spirit, for giving me evidence of my physical and financial security during this time of disruption, during this time of evolution that appears to be revolution, that appears to be disruption. Because Vanessa is asking us to make our decisions based on faith or fear. What will you do? And basing them on fear is really an ability to see a wisdom behind the story that the Earthling tells you. Because we are rewriting this planet. We are very much rewriting how we experience this plane, and we are going to open it up into a place that really, it's kind of like, all right, let me give you a weird metaphor, right? So as a human, you have a job and you go to it every day and you make money. Maybe you work in a market, or you work at a restaurant, or you work in a bank, and it serves a certain purpose. And then on the weekends you go and you karaoke and you sing and you love the way you sing, and you actually, you're a little fearful, but then the whole karaoke audience claps like you're Mariah Carey, and then you get brave enough to go on a reality show and you stick your neck out there. This is what I think Earth is being involved into. I know it sounds funny to equate it to a reality show, but it's where we really start to put our talents, our sense of who and what we are and what we have to experience, not for ourselves, but for everybody. Because as we allow ourselves those privileges, other people, we allow them to, and they get braver. So here is Oceana asking Aquarius to take action as to what you love and to be sincere and loyal to that. Because Aurora is saying you're flying high right now, don't descend. That you will soon inspire others as you shed the skin of the old, as your ruling planet Uranus throws a few lightning bolts into things. And I don't think it's throwing them into to destroy us, but to awaken us. What is Uranus known as? The Great Awakener. Because in the final position is the light worker. What we're talking about and focusing in on today is shining our light. And shining our light in a way that is not exclusive to others, but inclusive, knowing we all have it. And it's a matter of where it is on the dimmer. Some people are unaware of their light, so the dimmer is very down. But others are aware and shining a brighter light, because here is the Lady of the Lake. And the angels asking Aquarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums for sure during this storm, during these shifts, as things appear to be, what's the term? I'm trying to think of a nautical term. Pardon me. As these stormy seas go around her feet, they are not knocking her over. They're not pushing her aside. Yes, the wind is blowing, the wind representing our thoughts, the ocean representing or the lake, as it may be, representing our emotions, and yet holding her sort of spiritual truth. So I believe that for Aquarius, as you are gentle with yourself, asking yourself, what do I want to believe versus what I've been told I should believe? And allow for these subtleties to sort of collect together into one large energy. All right, let's go on to our Capricorns. Oh, Shelley, that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you feel that way. All right. Is Stephen not here again today, guys? I haven't. He reached out around Christmas, and I haven't seen him since. Let's send him some good vibes. Well, that's a very interesting comment, George, because having Uranus and Taurus, many astrologers as well as myself have thought that the way our food is farmed and our animals are all going to come under this shift of liberation in some ways. You know, I truly believe that animals give up their lives for our sustenance, but not in a way because we farmed them, but rather like, you know, the tribal way where you hunt and then the animal crosses your path because it has chosen to have that noble ending. We're going to rewrite a lot of things going on. Anyway, let's go on to Capricorn. Capricorn, our first angel is Rosetta, the angel of parenting and teaching. We have Shanti, the angel of peace. We have Yvonne, the angel of vulnerability. And we have Azure, the angel of no resistance. Tebow may still be having internet issues. I'm not sure. I've kind of gone a little bit quiet over this holiday season, tucking in, rejuvenating. Contemplating yet another physical detox. All right, Capricorn. Rosetta is being joined by the cow. Shanti is being joined by the eagle. Yvonne is being joined by the disruption card. And Azure is being joined by the protection card. Rosetta talks about having a way with people, young people. Helping, nurturing, guiding young people. And there's the cow. The cow is about asking and receiving nourishment and abundance. And when I look at this for my Capricorns, you have moved out of your sign of Saturn. Saturn is moved out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. And in some ways, I feel like this is actually, Spirit is saying to Capricorn, be a baby goat. But let yourself be more. I don't think this is about duty and about guiding children. I think this is about allowing a little bit of that stoic, arduous, enduring energy to relax a little bit and to truly allow yourself to be abundant and nourished by a baby goat's energy. I think you should look up baby goats like on Instagram or something and see how joyous they are. They are literally the cutest things, because in the opportunity, the obstacle is the eagle and Shanti, the angel of peace. And I think this is truly where we are headed. And if you think about Capricorn, you know, unfortunately, Capricorn can represent depression, things that are dry, things that are enduring and you know, I got to work hard and they're arduous. And I feel like this is part of the shift, is to shift even how we're looking at Saturn and Capricorn in general. That now as we focus in on the things that we love, the hard work feels different. So standing in your own integrity and the integrity of that inner child's lightness will bring peace, because there is in the angel's advice, there's a asking Capricorn to be vulnerable to the disruption of what is going on, to the process of peace and what it takes to implement peace. If we really look back at any sort of history, our own personal histories, the history of humanity, the history of individual cultures, oftentimes we see what happens is that things become so oppressed that is what is the impetus for change. People don't naturally change when they're feeling contented. So to me, I'm going to go back. This childlike dynamic is not about having your head in the clouds. It's about having faith that there is a bigger picture of things, and that as your opportunity is really to go deeper into a place of being an agent for peace in some ways, and not by your actions, but by your willingness to shift into a place that maybe there's a bigger picture to this. Maybe there's something that I can't see, that only God and the angels can see. I can't help but think that in our history sometimes, and I don't want to get into any sort of controversial dynamics, but oftentimes one person's oppression is another person's luxury. And in order for there to be balance between that, the person who feels the ease of luxury has to go through the disruption of the person who's been oppressed. And the person who's been oppressed has to learn how to feel more ease. That's kind of where I'm going with this. There's a vulnerability that must take place for the process of the change and the uncomfortableness of it. Because Azure says for Capricorn, as you, your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And there's the protection card. So to me, this is really about the new structure, the new norm, the process of the evolution, and your planet, your ruling planet in February and 3 times throughout 2021 is going to square Uranus. So having this focus on things that come from your heart, having this focus on the baby goat versus the old goat chewing on the tin can, right? Let's rewrite Capricorn. Capricorn's a cool sign. It's really gotten a bad rap for a long time because we tend to categorize things. We tend to look at Jupiter and we see the wealth and the prosperity and the good luck. We don't focus on the gluttony and the self-entitlement and the know-it-all energy of Jupiter. So, again, it's the same thing with Saturn, and Saturn being always, pardon me, that was so eloquent, wasn't it? Anyway, so I really think that this is exciting for you, and do your best to keep yourself in a vibration that if you get irritated by something, and I immediately go to the media, because I think we're going to find that the media has been more influential in our perceptions than we realize, and I think that's part of this liberation of redefining what our perceptions are, and if they're truly ours or if they were given to us. All right, let's go on to our Sagittariuses, as your ruling planet is playing with these others this month. And I know I'm here every week, but I can't help but see these. I can't compartmentalize and put these energies into little neat slices. I feel like I've taken a loaf of bread, and where people want to pull out slices, they've cut up the whole loaf, turned it into croutons. It had to get stale and then be seasoned and put in the oven before they taste good again. Okay. I agree, Starry Night Dreams. Saturn and Capricorn have just been gotten a bad rep for entirely too long. And I personally feel like it's part of my calling to rewrite that structure, or not to rewrite it, but to illuminate the opportunities it presents versus the obstacles. All right, here we go. On to our Sagittarius rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And as I say that, I'm thinking to myself, this idea of, I don't know why I want to say it this way for Sagittarius, but the square represents a tension of some kind. And I got this feeling of the tension was the integration, the marrying of two ideas into one. Is there enough room for them? That's kind of how I want to put it. So what if part of your illumination this month. What Mars and Uranus is square up against Jupiter is that what you believed is not 100% wrong or 100% right. And now there's a collective right or truth or alignment that wasn't there before. Okay. Sagittarius, our first angel is Maya, the angel of schooling and study. Caressa is in the opportunity or the obstacle. Crystal is in the angel's advice. And Oceana is in the final position. Okay. Maya is being joined by the focus card. Caressa is being joined by the letting go card. Crystal is being joined by the history card. And Oceana is being joined by the love card. Okay. So, you guys have been around me for a while, most of you, and I very much believe that the stars are not dictating what happens to us. It is an environment which we are swimming through and offers us opportunities. When somebody goes out into the ocean and decides to body surf, the person who feels comfortable in the ocean knows that when a wave hits them, not to resist the wave, but to allow its natural rhythm to bring them back to the surface. The person who's unfamiliar with that environment will tend to fight their way and think they have to push their way to the top, which actually pushes them down. So this is where I'm going with this. I believe that Sagittarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, you are really, really the illumination of this dynamic of this month. And I'm going to talk about it, obviously, for the next 4 weeks and maybe longer, is an education on your own focus. And I want to put it this way, because the focus does not necessarily have to be in a negative direction. I started off feeling like there is a dynamic where a truth is not 100%, that somehow Sagittarius is going to feel some sort of integration between something they thought was absolutely true and something was absolutely false. And now it is the opposite. Both are true and both are false. And this is where I feel like this is where this comes in for Sagittarius. You're really going to start to learn about the co-creation process. And then this is where Jupiter is going to kick in to be a teacher, because Caressa is offering you the end of a cycle. And the letting go card, you guys who've been around a while know that this is akin to the song Let It Go from the movie Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. And I go straight to fears because in the angel's advice is the history card, the Baird. It's also a card of storytelling, enchantment of storytelling. But in this position with Crystal asking me to have faith and hope, there's more on the horizon than my history would tell me. And now this is my opportunity to really look at how I have been co-creating through my focus of my history. One of the things that I have always sort of had this, as I've become more knowledgeable and trusting of my spiritual path, one of the things that has really bothered me about traditional psychology is going back to the childhood and the amount of time spent on days and experiences that cannot be changed. So I say this because this Sagittarius is where we're going at. You're going to start to really get an education that my focus is where I'm manifesting. And I'm going to the final position now because Oceana is asking you to take action on your deeper truth. And your deeper truth now is about love, loyalty, and sincerity. It's about realizing that maybe any sort of challenging past or dramatic stories or hiccups in the road, they don't all have to be, wow, up here. Some of these are what other people would think are small, but how these have served you. It's about realizing and starting to connect the dots that as I start to give life to a new story, to an enchanted story, to one where I win, one where I meet that person that I've been waiting to meet, to join that connection in this lifetime, or when I step into that financial vibration of abundance and of flow. It is really about that. So Sagittarius, I think that the square that's happening between Uranus and Mars and your ruling planet Jupiter, and the idea that they're slow moving planets, even Mars I think takes 2 years to go around the whole zodiac. So it's going to be not something that's just something that happens, for a day, but a series of events and illuminations that don't have you judging yourself in a negative way, but assessing things in a way where you can put them in their proper place and then use them as a tool to move forward. Okay, let's go on to our Scorpios. Cinderella, I want to say this. The past that we have is, we don't think of the brain because we think, we go, oh, I need to do this today. So we engage our brains. But there is a part of our brain that does nothing but run on by itself. It's like, just like our heart beats on its own, the kidneys do what they need to do on their own. There is a part of our brain that runs on a branding that started early on in this life's experience. So I feel like when you oh geez, I just lost my train of thought. Let me look back at your comment. Hold on. Oh, looking into the past. So when you see yourself going into your story, what you've experienced, that's where you have the opportunity to be like, oh, here's that loop going on. Here's that loop that I have, that branding. Maybe I can change the channel. And just the awareness of it stops the momentum, slows it down, especially if that story is a negative one. You can go into all the happy stories you want. Those are great. Joy is what creates. Okay. The Earth's magnetic field is amazing, and it's all part of the law of attraction. We're going to figure all that stuff out. George, you're going places I'm very curious about right now. Okay. On to our Scorpios. Our first angel is Bridget. The second is Archangel Michael. The third is Indriel. And the final is Merlina. Pluto, now that the other planets are not hanging out with Pluto, we could kind of forget that Pluto is still kind of at the end of Capricorn, still got a ways to go, still squaring the cardinal signs and opposing Cancer, squaring Aries and Libra. So these things are still in effect. There's still transformation happening. Well, there'll always be transformation happening, but I mean at a palatable level. Okay, Scorpio. Bridget is being joined by the butterfly. Archangel Michael is being joined by the movement card. Indriel is being joined by the novice. And Merlina is being joined by the deer. Bridget asks us to look deeper into a situation. And she's, there's a caution here, but I don't think it's caution because you're walking into something dangerous. I think it is an assumption of some kind. It is a habitual response to a situation, a person, a thing, a belief. Okay. Again, here we are talking about, and I want to offer you this idea because if indeed some aggression breaks out, and there are protests, because, I'm not going to be surprised if we see some things hanging out in the world stage, both natural disasters as well as some man-made moments. So if indeed we can choose to look at those moments and whether we want to participate and what the vibration is in the participation, because what I don't think we as humans realize that even viewing a situation, during the protests, there were the people that were actually protesting, and then there were all the people that watched it endlessly over the news and the various, that you're still participating on a vibrational level. Because I know I sound like I'm going all over the place, but this is so important and so transformational these times, because this is really where Spirit is asking Scorpio to look deeper into this transformational process, to look deeper into what this apparent or seemingly dark period has to offer us, because it's not as dark as it appears. It is a knowing that we have known about what's been going on, but we've never seen it in our faces. You know, things that happen behind closed doors, things that are rumored about happening over there in the world that could be very much happening in our own hometowns that we aren't necessarily, you know, in our faces, because Archangel Michael is asking us to have courage. And there's the movement card. And that courage is to see the light within the darkness, for it to be a shepherd of this new beginning, to be a shepherd of this new vibration of not looking at this disruption as, oh my gosh, I need to brace because something bad is going to happen to me. But what does this disruption have to offer me? I don't know that will be clear right now, but I think that lack of clarity is akin to the butterfly card, akin to the butterfly is that multiple transformation. It is not one thing to another. We have to really remember how the caterpillar, as it spins this cocoon, it's doing it in a rote way. It's doing it almost Saturnian. It's what's expected. It's what I'm supposed to do. And then it becomes engulfed in this darkness, and the real transformation begins. And that's why I think right now Scorpio may be consumed a little bit by the confusion that Merlina represents, and that you may in some ways really have to work hard to find a gentleness, not with necessarily the outside world, but within your own interior world, with your own willingness to transform and to see that your ruling planet may sound in some ways intimidating. That's the way I want to put it. Pluto is it's a little planet, packs a big punch, but that punch is that fear of transformation. So looking deeper into what the butterfly gets to experience. You know, the butterfly gets to experience things the caterpillar has no idea, clue, or can't even begin to fathom. We can't begin to fathom what this conjunction between Mars and Uranus will bring. We can project out what we know from the past in the way of what could potentially be unexpected, but we still can't imagine it. I mean, you guys remember when the Vatican, or was it the Vatican? What was the big, it was Notre Dame that burned down. Who would have ever in a million years thought that would have frickin' happened? You know, and again, this is a Uranian aspect, and I think it was Uranus with Aries. So, anyway, so I just want to offer this for my Scorpios, because you represent the 8th house, the house of to me, it's a very intuitive house. It's that house of, you know, when we go into this intimate place of commingling. And when I think of the idea of the 8th house representing sex, I think about being naked and the vulnerability that takes. Not the act of sex per se, but what it offers. So looking deeper into this dynamic moving forward, allowing yourself to step back outside of yourself and maybe pulling yourself up a little bit and saying, if I look at this and I say, wow, this has never really served me. That little teeny weeny sight that I was as I was on that twig, the caterpillar. I always wished I could see more. And yet this fear I have of what it's going to take to see more. I'm willing to stand in gentle diplomacy as I'm in the unknown. Okay. Wow. I feel like so much to be said today, guys. I feel like half the things Spirit was saying to me while I was getting ready, I wished I could have been writing down, but just comes so fast. Because there's so much opportunity within what is going to appear to be destruction. And I don't think that this necessarily is physical destruction. We've seen earlier in 2020 the protests. We saw innocent, store fronts boarding things up. And I feel like this is an opportunity to really say to ourselves, if I am going to stand in protest, am I going to have the vibration of a riot? Or am I going to have the vibration of being the change that I want to see in the world, instead of being the persecutor of or perpetrator of the vibration I don't like? Okay, Libra, here we go. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Francesca. The second is Vanessa. The third is Shanti. And the final is Desiree. Oh, wow. Astro Ascension, Libra, stellium, definitely pay attention. And I would only imagine how hard this transit has been for you in Capricorn, because it just was nailing you. I know I have my sun, my moon, and my north node in Libra, and my Mars. I'm sorry, not my moon. My moon's in Taurus. I have my sun and my Mars within a few degrees of each other, and my Mars is right in Placidus on the cusp of the 8th house, where now Mercury and Neptune are. So it's been really wild. It's been wild to even see it, like see it on paper and then feel it. Okay, Libra. Francesca is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Vanessa's being joined by the Cow. Shanti's being joined by the Wealth card, and Desiree's being joined by the King. Okay, so Francesca says, what do you desire right now? Visualize it and it will come about. And then we have the Lady of the Lake. And, I talked earlier about here she is in this emotional storm, holding steadfast. Even the wind is blowing to a point where her hair is everywhere. She's holding Excalibur. And yet she has this strength of conviction. That's what Francesca is asking you to have, a strength of conviction to hold a higher vibration for what this transformation and what these transits are offering us. Every time there was disruption, every time I can think of, at least within the American history, it has been for greater levels of freedom of expression, freedom of how we view each other, freedom of, I can't even begin to think of all the words I want to say, because this is where Libra may be struggling a bit with the idea, is it ever going to be fair? Is it ever going to be harmonious? Are we ever going to get to that place? Will I have faith in humanity? Because in the opportunity and or the obstacle is Vanessa asking us, are we going to have faith, or are we going to base everything on fear? Because faith will nourish us. And faith is not wobbly. Faith is not hope. Faith is strong, like the Lady of the Lake, and unwavering. Faith seeks the wisdom in disruption. Faith sees how peace is sometimes brought through the act of revolution. Because here's Shanti, the angel of peace, and there's the wealth card. And this wealth card is harmonious wealth. There are many, many people that walk this earth with much financial abundance, and they are miserable. They do drugs to mask whatever. They're not truly embracing or being able to feel that wealth, because wealth doesn't come from material things. It comes from a sense of feeling connected, a sense of feeling on purpose and on path with what makes me feel abundant, with that self-expression. So for Libra, now is a time when Spirit is asking you to look, conditions are not favorable, to expect things to be just and fair, but to know that justness and fairness is coming. And part of it comes from Libra being able to hold the vision for it. That's what I think I started this whole broadcast talking about, is us as a tribe holding a vision and holding space, as we say, for a bigger picture of what we're about to walk through. we're about to walk through some things where people, even the calmest people that you're used to, people being like steady and tried and true, they may flip off and go left and have a moment you weren't expecting, because everybody, like rings on a tree, every ring is being affected by this ascension. And the ascension is a breaking away of the illusions of duty and obligation to dynamics that serve an imbalance. You must lose for me to win. That's the biggest imbalance we perpetrate as humans. So our job as light workers is to seek the win-win and to perpetrate it. All right, Libra, we're going on to Virgo now. Excuse me. All right, I like to start with the angels first. In one of my dreams, I think I was having a discussion with my guides about the different vibration between Virgo and Gemini, and them both being ruled by Mercury. And I remember, I don't know why suddenly this is hitting me, but I feel like I was talking to my guides about how playful Gemini is and how youthful and a little frivolous they are, and how Virgo is so the opposite. How Virgo is like really dependable and practical, and how do these two mercurial energies, how do these two different signs have the same mercurial energy? And I thought it was very interesting. I don't remember the answer. Just thought I'd bring it up. Maybe one of you can come up with the answer. All right. Whew. All right, our first angel for our Virgos is Oceana. The second is Bridget. The third is Isabella. And the final is Francesca. Wow. I feel like this is all like, again, these cards, they as each sign has a slight individuality, there is a stronger theme as a collective through these readings. I think that's a really strong message, to start to see ourselves as a collective, as in that Aquarian energy of we are, as I treat myself, I treat you. Love yourself as you would your brother. Love your brother as you would yourself. And then maybe part of the problem is we haven't loved ourselves enough to love our brother. Okay, Oceana, Virgo, is being joined by the Queen. Bridget is being joined by the Communications card. Isabella is being joined by the Bee. And Francesca is being joined by the Perception card. And that reminds me, Mercury is going to go retrograde at the end of the month. So on top of all this Mars, Uranus, Jupiter action, we have Mercury. And I want to say it this way, because I'm not necessarily going to the idea of the communications part of Mercury, but the idea of our everyday activities feeling backwards. Suddenly out of nowhere. I think it's on the 30th. I don't remember the date exactly. So here we are. We're seeing this square between Jupiter, Mars, and Uranus being influential to Mercury's retrograde period. And I believe, let me think, I think Mercury is in Capricorn right now. I can't remember. Can anyone help me? Is Mercury in Capricorn right now? Anyway, if indeed, I believe it is in Capricorn. If it isn't in Capricorn, then I think it's in Capricorn. Anyway, if I feel like this is part of the whole idea of the structure and Saturn. So if somebody would check that with me, Cynthia, are you saying yes, that it is in Capricorn? Or yes, it's on the 30th? Because I think this is important as well. So here, let me go back for Virgo. Oceana is saying to take action. You're in touch with your truth. And there's the Queen. This Queen can represent feminine energies. Thank you, Cynthia. But I believe it's about receptivity. So this is what I want to offer. Oftentimes when we want to manifest something, or when we get connected to something inside of our heart that we want to experience, then we start to think of the resistance of it, or the lack of it, or the, vulnerability of it. It is such a natural human reaction to things. And this is being amplified and exaggerated right now as we all feel so vulnerable in our everyday activities. So this is a practice for Virgo right now, a practice of asking yourself, not if you're worthy, but knowing that you're worthy, and how patient am I with this dynamic. This is not Vedic seeking truth. This is whole sign Western. I apologize. The Queen here is asking you, Virgo, to look at how receptive you are to taking action from your heart, from what you want to truly experience. Because Bridget, in the opportunity or the obstacle, is asking you to look at how you're communicating to yourself. Because Bridget says to look deeper into a situation. And if the situation is, well, I'd really like to do this, but I have to do that. Or I'd really like to, have, this someday. The someday thing is what we're revolutionizing ourselves from right now, and turning someday into today. Because Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right, Virgo, for this new venture. And your job is to be aware of your being energy. What do I believe? What is my attitude? What is my disposition? Because in the final position is Francesca saying, what do you visualize right now? Negativity will block your progress. Negativity is really, it's not that the negativity itself blocks your progress. It's the amount of focus the negativity is given. And that's what tends to really start the momentum, because the negativity comes from the perception, and your perception will always go back to what you've experienced. So if we think about it in a loving way, the people that raised us, no matter how loving they were or how fearful they raised us based on their history. And as souls, we chose these vessels for their history. And oftentimes right now, to revolutionize that history, to change that history to work for us instead of to work against us. So that's where I'm going with this for Virgo. Virgo, take action on the idea that you are receiving more. And just because something doesn't happen in the physical, in the timing that you think it should, how are you communicating that? Because if you go, wow, I've been really watching the clock, it hasn't happened, it hasn't happened, it hasn't happened, I haven't got that phone call, then you're aware of your being energy. And I can almost guarantee you that as you become aware of your being energy and you become aware of your perceptions, you will start to see spirit shift this back around for you to have experiences where you are receiving. And that might be what liberates you. That might be what seems shocking and unexpected. Okay, on to our Leos. Somebody keeps asking if this is Western or Vedic. It's Western, whole sign, based on my experience with Lada and my teachings from her. Okay, here we go. Leo Sun. Rising, we start with Leo rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, so repetitive over here as I'm going to be. I want to really, as I shuffle for Leo and for all the signs, I want to remind us that the sun rules the zodiac. The sun rules the 5th house of personal pleasure. It's a dharma house of reward for past lives. It rules children, personal creativity, genius, romance, fun, hobbies. I believe that this is part of this whole revolution. I believe that this is part of these astrological dynamics offering us an opportunity to turn this planet into that utopia as we start to play to our 5th house joys, our 5th house truths. And it doesn't mean that because if your fifth house is Virgo, it's Virgonian things. That's not what I'm talking about. So, all right, here we go. Leo, our first angel is Oceana. Our second is Bridget. The third is Archangel Uriel. And the final is Isabella. Okay, Oceana is being joined by the horse. Bridget is being joined by the bee. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the letting go card. And Isabella is being joined by the hawk. Oceana says to take action, that you're in touch with your truth, and to lovingly assert yourself towards that truth. And here's the horse. And the horse for me is very, and it talks about on the face of the card, accepting help and delegating authority. But I don't necessarily think that's true. I think this is a little bit about pivoting. I want to say, Leo, I feel like there's the potential that you need to look at a situation from the other side of the room, from not where you've been, but where you want to go, and how are you walking down that path? Because Bridget is looking deeper into a situation, and there's the bee card. The bee is about luck. It's about victory. It's about industriousness. And in this particular case, I feel as if there's two things going on. Number one, I feel like Leo is impatient with time, impatient with the constant blocks, restrictions, detours, the rest stops, and there's a wanting to move a story forward because there's a clarity that you may have that you've never had before about what you really want for yourself. And in the angel's advice is the Archangel Uriel is about frustration, anger, and unforgiveness. I'm going with frustration here. Frustration of not being able to express myself. The letting go card is about that song from Frozen. And this is where I'm going to. It's not about the fear. It's about being who I am, testing the limits, breaking through the boxes. So here, I feel like this is an opportunity for you to say to yourself, okay, Leo represents the leader. Leo represents the sun. How do I want to traverse these blocks that I have no control over? Because there is a way that I can utilize this time. I just need to go in a different direction. And the different direction is not about dumping an idea and moving on to a new idea. It's about looking at the idea from a different perspective. Because Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right to rise above the situation and to see how there is the potential that signs and omens are coming, that it's not just you that is creating something, but a co-creation. Oftentimes, for those of you that have watched me, I'm going to sound a little repetitive, but I'm 61 years old, and I did not really get any traction with my work until Yelp was invented, 3 years after Yelp had been, launched and had become an app that people were using all the time. And once that happened, then I became exposed to a world audience, and then YouTube, of course, and the other platforms that have been invented. So for Leo right now, there could be the potential that there are things going on and being developed, because there are technologies being developed that will support a bigger version of what you want for yourself. And getting frustrated isn't really serving you right now, and being more aware of your being energy, because frustration is a block. Frustration is like putting a cog in a wheel. It slows the process down. So I want to offer that. And I want to offer it this way. If indeed you find yourself over this month of January getting triggered by your beliefs, people challenging your beliefs, people asking you, well, how do you know what you know? You don't need to answer to them. You know what you know because it comes from your heart. And that's what you represent as well, is the heart. That's your body part. So, and in that, you don't need to stand in a defensive energy, but rather in a leadership energy, knowing. Okay, let's go on to our Cancers. Oh, thank you, Yuritsi. That's so sweet. A lot of people think I'm a Leo. It's kind of funny. And I don't have really any, I have my Uranus in the 5th house of Leo, but a lot of my house cusps in Placidus are at the 29th degree of Leo. Okay. I used to live in Raleigh, North Carolina, George. All right. Let's shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. I like Raleigh, actually. It's a beautiful place. On to Cancer. Yes, indeed, our moon children. I'll give it a good shuffle. Okay. Caressa is our first angel in the foundational position. Akasha is in the opportunity or the obstacle. Mystique is in the angel's advice. And Adriana is in the final position. Caressa is being joined by the restriction card. Akasha is being joined by the king. Mystique is being joined by the disruption card. And Adriana is being joined by the truth. When I looked at this, with the angels, and it always changes when I add the second deck a little bit, but I got the distinct feeling of being in the South during the Civil War, and how, almost like Gone with the Wind, mourning a certain type of lifestyle. And yet that lifestyle did not completely serve my happiness. But once it was threatened, all I could do was focus in on what was working instead of what wasn't working. So what I'm saying for Cancer is that Caressa is saying you're at the end of a life cycle, that new happiness awaits you. And then there's the restriction card. And that's where I'm going, where I feel like you are inadvertently focusing in on a dynamic within your life that you really wanted to change, you wanted to evolve, and yet as it has begun to evolve, all you can focus in on is what was working, even if it was just a small portion of what was working. And I don't want to put it into a measurement like that, as much as I feel like you're marrying yourself to something melancholy and familiar, but it may not have completely served you. Because in the opportunity or the obstacle is Akasha, the teacher. And then I have the Justice card, the King. And I feel like this is really, truly about justice, not necessarily about male energy. And that there are things that are going to come to light that will teach you about things being more fair. But in many ways, it's through disruption. Okay. And disruption, this is in the angel's advice. Mystique is asking you to keep walking through, keep charging ahead, regardless of the disruption. Because Adriana is saying that you're being led towards the answers to your prayers through your dreams and your intuitions, through the deeper truth that you already know in your heart. So here we are talking about, we have a Capricorn New Moon on the 13th, and that Capricorn New Moon to me really stood out as the structure that Saturn represents and the old structures that it represents. And the 13th is very much in this period of Mars and Uranus coming in for their paso doble, for their dance, and they're standing there, you're holding, I don't even know how to say it, like rawr. And I want to say this because if Cancer can go to that place of deeper knowing that, yes, there were things that weren't serving me. Yes, there were dynamics that weren't so awesome possum in my current structure. And so maybe this disruption is going to offer me more opportunities to stand in a place where I feel more connected, more at home, more grounded, more settled. If I think about the idea that the transit between Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto was directly opposing Cancer for this last, year and a half, 2 years, I can imagine And this is as I've studied astrology, I only looked at the planets. I didn't really look at the ripple effect. And the ripple effect has been so dramatic for Cancer. And I really think that's starting to calm down. And so as you allow for the restriction to lead you to a deeper truth, because it's pushing you into your intuition versus what your eyes are seeing in the 3D world or on the news. All right, let's go on to Gemini. Hey, small ball fights, you and me both are I think I'm the type that might just end up being one of those old ladies with a farmhouse full of animals as well. And a garden, all organic and dairy-free. Wearing overalls and Crocs. We do, George. We progress through the signs. And my progressed sun is right at the latter degrees of Sagittarius right now for the next couple of years. And then I'm going to end up going to Capricorn and turn into a dry old woman. I'm rewriting Capricorn. All right, here we go, Gemini. Are you ready? Yes, Birkenstocks. Yes, I love that oil painter Birkenstocks with socks. That's the greatest. Okay, sorry, Juan. Here we go. Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Teresa. The second is Maya. The third is Crystal. And the final is Sonia. Yes, I'll have sheep. And goats. Of course I'll have goats, you guys. I would have to have goats. Even before the sheep. My Venus is in Virgo at the Capricorn degree. I love goats. Every one of my significant boyfriends was a goat. Okay. Teresa is being joined, my Geminis, by the Spider card. Maya is being joined by the Death card. Crystal's being joined by the Letting Go card. And Sonia's being joined by the Earth Fairy. This is rather interesting to me. I almost want to ask my Geminis, if you've been getting downloads, have you been feeling like in your dream time you've been talking to spirit? Do you feel like you've been having other conversations? It's interesting. Teresa is a card of worry for me. It's about taking care of other people, but I didn't read it that way. I feel like I read it more like you've been worried, you've watched yourself going sort of back and forth in your thought process, and now you're trying to solidify things a little bit more, trying to get yourself sort of anchored. You know, the spider web is an incredibly strong structure. So I feel like this is very much somehow about recreating the focus of where you are and about how much worry can serve you. Like, does it? Because Maya is the card of schooling and education, and there's the transformation. And when I look at Crystal and the Letting Go card comes back to the idea of, it's funny how some distance makes everything look small. And, you know, if we really, really look at fear, very few of us are standing in front of a cougar or a bear or on the cliff about to fall. Most of us are projecting a story of the unknown that doesn't serve us. So this is where I think the education comes in for my Geminis, is to sort of get out of that worry of back and forth that Teresa's talking about, picking a way of, you know what? I'm going to start to use this mind to serve me instead of to mix me up and send me down this crazy train that I don't want to go down anymore. Because Crystal's saying have faith and hope, there's more on the horizon. And this is really about thinking, well, you know what? For every sunrise, there's a sunset. For every action, there is a reaction. there's something about balance and starting to truly implement that balance versus letting the dark side take you down. Because here's the Earth Fairy, and I really feel like this is about grounding. And I feel like Sonia is not representing a deceased loved one, but rather knowing that there's so much more on this planet that we can't see with our eyes, that we can't think with our human brains in their limited capacity. And part of that is my willingness to allow there to be this, it's not an unknown, okay? I don't want to put it like I'm vulnerable to this abyss. I feel like it's more about starting to get that the mind is the vessel for the law of attraction. The mind is the vessel for the law of allowing. And as I start to implement these laws, rather than feel worried about them, I start to implement, okay, there is this theory that focus is like, if you focus on something for a minute, it starts to gain traction. And if that focus is on what serves me, what I really want to experience, am I not learning about how to transform my life? Am I not stepping out of my fear and actually doing things my own way, breaking the box, and not necessarily trusting faith in a way that is, oh, somebody out in the sky is going to bestow me to be lucky, Gemini, but rather my own intentions are rewriting the story and setting a foundation and a connection to my energetic part of myself. The soul, your whole soul is not encapsulated in your body. George Daughtry, your whole soul is not George Daughtry. It is a fraction. George is a fraction of a bigger picture. Same thing for Oil Painter and Juan and Small Wildflowers and myself. So as we give life to that, there is a part of us that's holding space for a bigger picture of who and what we are. And we incarnated into this small place of the caterpillar so that we could blossom and then really become more anchored into that bigger picture of ourself. All right, that's where I'm going. Let's go on to Taurus. Okay, Taurus. Let's just say, those of you that have a 6-degree Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, it's going to be a very powerful time for you right now. You got a lot of action going on, especially if it's your moon or rising. I got a 9-degree Taurus moon. I didn't even think about that. That's quite it's not quite a exact conjunction, but it's close. So what will happen as Mars, my ruling planet, sits on top of Uranus? And this is the other thing that's interesting. When you guys check your charts, my moon is part of a grand trine, actually 2 grand trines. So it activates those trines as well. So there's a lot of little layers that when we look at these astrological things, we tend to compartmentalize them. And again, one thing leads to another, leads to another. All right, here we go, Taurus, rising, sun, moon, and stelliums. All right, our first angel is Adriana. The second is Shanti. The third is Archangel Michael. And the final is Patience. Okay, and here we go. Okay, Adriana is being joined by the mystery card. Shanti is being joined by the butterfly. Archangel Michael is being joined by Merlin. And the patience card is being joined by focus. Adriana talks about leading you to the answers to your prayers through your dreams, your intuitions, through these subtle thoughts that we think we have. And, again, this is where I want to say we tend to think that we are directing our minds. I had a thought, like I put that thought in my head. I would say 1 out of every 100 thoughts you put in your head, believe it or not. A lot of them are on an automatic pilot. So I want you to start to make the choice, Taurus, to pay attention to those subtle yearnings, to pay attention. Uranus can make you feel anxious, can make you feel nervous. We are in the storm period where it's been retrograde. So the early Tauruses, mid to early Tauruses, I've been feeling this quite a bit. And this could be the winds, smelling the winds of change, the north winds, because now is making a choice as to starting to work with spirit in how they communicate with you. And I'm going to say that and go to the final position, because patience is a card of actual being a student, of watching my energy, of being aware. It says now is a time to learn, study, and gather information, and enjoy being a student, because you will synthesize that information and take it out into a more grounded, centered, anchored way in the future. It will be the new norm for you. And there's the focus card. So what I feel like is that for my Tauruses, where you naturally rule the second house of money and of security, it's also the house of insecurity. You want to know, that you have plenty of money, plenty of resources, plenty of food, plenty of things that make you feel comfortable. And now what I think is happening is that these dynamics happening with Uranus and its Taurus, the house squaring Jupiter, and then we're going to go into Saturn, is that you're going to start to think about these things differently. So rather than things happening to you, will I be secure enough? You will start to say, oh, I know that security comes from my focus, my willingness to say, hey, you know what? There's things that can happen that I had no idea about. I have a client who a few years back walked into my home very casually and said, oh, I just won $200,000 in the second chance scratcher. She happens to like to gamble, so she buys the scratchers. If she loses, she registers them with the California lottery, and then she throws them in a drawer. And it had been in a drawer for a couple of years, and then she won, because you don't know where your resources are going to always come from. So, because in the opportunity, the obstacle, Taurus, is the evolution of your peace. I think it's a process right now, but I think that process comes from looking for the beauty in your life, from looking at how your focus helps you participate in your situation, and not to be judgy, because this is where the angels are saying, do you have courage to go through this uncomfortable process of alchemy, pressure to become the diamond? Because it is the time. You as a Taurus, whether it's a rising sun, moon, or stelliums, have chosen to be at this time on the earth so that you could transform and evolve your soul to a place of more empowerment, to a place of being able to really, truly create those Venusian things that you love without guilt of abundance, or without feeling like they're going to be taken away, without feeling insecure. So that's why I think that the patience card is really telling you that you will inspire others who have known you to be rigid in some ways, or unrelenting in your experience. This is how it's been. This is how it's been. No, it's about to be new. And it's about to be new because you've been willing to shift your focus into, maybe there's more on the horizon that I couldn't see. There's peace through that dark period of time, because it's forcing me to get outside of my box. All right, let's go on to our final sign of Aries. Now, for my Aries, this is where I want to I'm an Aries rising. And I have to say, as conscious as you all may think I am, there are moments I have of complete reaction. Just a few days ago, it rained. I can't remember, sometime in the last week or so. And I was walking to my morning Starbuckles with the dog, and this gentleman drove into the parking lot at like 35 miles an hour, entirely too fast, hit a puddle and splashed me. In that moment, I split into two different people. One was a calm person who said, oh, who cares? They're just your sweatpants. And the other was my Mars Aries and my Libra saying, how dare you? How dare you have these kind of manners? And believe me, I let him know. Only reason I'm telling you this story, because he did walk right into the market and stand behind me in line at the Starbucks. please, my Aries, my fellow Aries ruled people, be aware of your reactions and make sure you're choosing them. If you want to go to war, fine. But think about the kind of warrior you want to be. Because if you're just an off with your heads kind of warrior, you may find your head bobbled down on the floor, rolling around at your feet. I say that with love. Here we go. Aries, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. I know someone who has an Aries stellium with their Mars in the 12th house, and they are so not Aryan. It's very amazing to me. Their moon is also in Capricorn. It's funny how the chart really is so layered. All right, here we go. George, think of a warrior, not always as the kind that, again, works with a sword. Think of Norma Ray, or Martin Luther King. Civil warrior, for civil rights. What did I tell him? The guy that splashed me? I'll tell you what I told him. I told him he was a rude man. And when he chose to just say, I saw you, I didn't see the puddle, I was like, well, that's really not good enough, because that puddle is always there. It's a divot. It's a big hole, and you always see it. So, and then you know what happened? The barista gave me my coffee for free because she felt sorry for me. She knew who it was. And the next day when I went into Starbucks, I'm sorry if I'm going off too much, but the next day when I went to Starbucks, she referred to the guy by his drink. The guy that orders the blah, 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 blah. So anyway, all right. I digress into my more challenging Martian energy. Now back to my higher spiritual warrior. Here we go. Bethany for my Aries rising sun, moon, and stelliums is a card of self-care. There's Archangel Raphael, the physical healer. We have Sonia that represents our deceased loved ones, our guides, our angels watching over us. And then we have Oceana. Here we go. Oceana representing being in touch with our deeper truth. And Aries is the truth seeker, ultimately, the pioneer, the courageous, the gold miner, the explorer. All right, Bethany is being joined by the owl. So how are we going to take care of ourselves over this period of time? By actually looking for the wisdom and the deception of a situation. And where will you find that? In your heart chakra. And here we have Archangel Raphael being joined by the fire fairy, which represents Aries, represents the fire signs, creative action and optimism. Sonia is being joined by the frog, representing the cleaning of my emotional baggage, the cleaning of my mental house. And Oceana is being joined by the wasp. All right, so this is the thing. Very much so, your warring planet of Mars is going to hit Uranus. And Spirit is really asking us, myself included, to be aware of my reactions to things. And when I say my reactions, it's a little bit, I'm kind of expecting some protests. I'm expecting some angry people. I'm expecting there to be the threat of civil war in the United States over this election. I'm not sure things are going to play out on the 20th the way it's expected to play out. I just can't even begin to fathom. So for me, as an Aries, rather than to be scared, Shelley, I'm going to seek the wisdom of a situation. That's how I'm going to take care of myself, because it is through disruption oftentimes that balance is implemented, and through the healing happens through my ability to see the creative action, see things through the eyes of wisdom, through the eyes of love, through the eyes of God, through the eyes of source energy. That's where we see our loved ones showing up here as represented in the angel's position. And this cleaning up for me is never about villainizing one experience and making another experience right or wrong. It's about seeing a wisdom in both, and the diversity of both. Every wisdom has a deception. Every deception has a wisdom. Every opportunity has an obstacle, and every obstacle has an opportunity. Because in the final position is Oceana, asking you to take action, but to lovingly take action. And then we have the Wasp. And this is where the greatest challenge comes for you, Aries. This month is going to challenge you to decide whether you're going to take loving action or aggressive action. It's going to ask you what your ripple effect is. And you may feel absolutely justified in your viewpoint, the square to Jupiter. But are you serving a bigger picture? Is your vibration of war, in the way it has been perceived, to villainize one side and to make another side the hero? I feel like this is where we have to really look for the balance. I feel like we really have to take the side of the owl that can look through the darkness. The owl is the nocturnal side of the hawk. When we look at the totems, they're very similar. So the owl can see through the darkness, can see with razor focus. And I feel like that razor focus may be that the darkness is serving a purpose. And rather than warring against that darkness, allowing it to sit as it may and reveal itself. Meaning the truth reveal itself. I'm going to pull one clarification card, a little challenging end. So let's just do one more on Aries, and that would be the spider. All right, so this is my relationship card. This is my card of interaction with others. I always thought of it as the fly that gets into the web. So I want to offer it this way. I want to go to the web, and I want to say that, I don't even think the wasp is impervious to the spider's web. Because I think once the wasp, anything that gets caught in the web it's not getting out. I mean, even a human who puts their finger in a web can't get it off its fingers, even though it's bigger and stronger than the web itself. So for my Aries, in conclusion, I would like to ask us all, and I say that for myself, to really look at how I choose to be courageous. How do I choose to be brave? Because courage and being brave may be not taking action, but rather observing others' actions and deciding how I want my vibration to balance things. Because if the vibration was so passive that it was allowing for this imbalance that we've, meaning someone trampling over us, we don't necessarily want to just lay down, but we don't always want to rise up in aggression. So thanks, Spirit, for bringing the truth to your eyes and your heart and your ears and your mouth. That's what I want to say, because Aries is a very powerful, powerful sign. And not that the others aren't powerful, but it tends to make itself known a little bit more assertively. There you go. All right. So that's it for this week, for this Sunday's show. I want to thank you all for joining. I want to thank you for all the likes. Wow, lots of fun likes. I love you guys to death and beyond. And I mean that in a higher vibration, not the low vibration, leaving the planet. And I will be back next Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And we're going to talk about these transits more and more, because by we get to the 10th, we're going to be sitting right on top of these. We're going to be experiencing them, and then we're going to be swimming through them. So I would love to hear this week or next week how you've used your own vibrations to tee up this month to serve you and liberate you versus shock you and electrocute you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. I'm sending love and peace to you all, and I'm out.